This is Tom Dillon, the Lifetime Liberal, and today is Wednesday, January 6th, 2020. The title of this rant is, Thank You, Progressive Democrats, PAYGO to go. So, to get to a policy, you have to have a process. You have to follow through with that process until it becomes a policy. What Republicans and even many Democrats have done over the years to gum up the works, to especially gum up progressive policies, is to put something in the process that screws it up and slows it down and stops it. One of those things is PAYGO. PAYGO is basically, if you're going to increase the budget in a certain area, let's just say the IRS, that you have to decrease it in another area of the government or the budget, or you have to have a corresponding tax increase for that. So let's just say that for the last 20 years, with the introduction of the Bush administration and all of the austerity in the Obama administration, that we really have not been able to get past a lot of this PAYGO stuff for a long time. And we need to do that. And the progressive Democrats have a procedural win here in the sense that in the Budget Committee, they can bypass or they can override that PAYGO restriction on two areas. One, on the pandemic. And with the pandemic, that includes two things. That would include for health, in terms of getting money to all of the areas in the United States, state, local governments, et cetera, hospital systems, et cetera, to deal with that pandemic as quickly as possible. And also on an economic standpoint, so that people can stay in their houses, there won't be food insecurity, and people whose jobs have been lost that will never return still can pay for their rent, so to speak. The other end of that would be on climate change. And that would help us, especially if we're going to be getting new infrastructure, which is something that we desperately need. Now, the big thing about all of this is that, hey, guess what? We will not get back to economic health until the pandemic is over. And even as it's heading towards its extinction, let's just say, or hopefully heading towards it, there's still a lot to do. And even when we get over the pandemic, there are many jobs that will never come back. And we need to have, let's just say, the federal government be an active participant in the creation of new jobs. And one of those would be with infrastructure, which could also account for a great number, let's just say, of green jobs, because that is how we are going to rocket ourselves into the 22nd century. Again, the federal government has to be an active participant in this. We have seen just with the pandemic how the Trump administration has pawned everything off on state and local governments, and they are not that is not what they do. They take guidance from the federal government. The federal government has always been an innovator and moving us forward. And by getting PAYGO out of this, just this small procedural thing in the Budget Committee, it can help pave the way for us to get out of this pandemic as quickly as possible and get us to full employment as quickly as possible. And remember, we need that full employment also to be for jobs that maintain, a living wage. So let's just hope that this continues and we need to move forward.